With an update on the investigation into Vince McMahon and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Speaking to WrestleJoy, Cody Rhodes touched on Roman Reigns, mentioning that he ran away from WWE and AEW, saying, "I love that Roman brought it up in terms of running. I have to own it. I did meet adversity, and I did not say, you know what, I'm going to put my feet in the sand and stay. I didn't put my flag here. I'm not going to get back to the campus. I'm going to find a different campus. I hate the expression, trust the process, with all my life. Why not create the process? Why do I have to trust the process? I'd rather create the process. Roman isn't wrong that the business stung me, and I had to move away from where I got stung. I couldn't just continue to get stung." With all that said, it's ironic coming from Roman, who is a lifelong investment by WWE. That investment is absolutely paying off, but it just started paying off. I've talked about him with the greatest of reverence and respect because I know how absolutely dang special he is in our world. But if you're gonna get lowbrow with his comments like that, just remember that if me meeting adversity and changing my ways, going out and betting on myself, is that less valuable than meeting adversity and just pretending it doesn't exist? Either way, it really shouldn't matter because you're absolutely as champion, proving to everyone that you are everything you say you are as champion. I feel I'm everything I say I am as the American Nightmare. So it is up to the fans to decide the verdict on these trials, on my story, and the journey. I've had things I've done that weren't good, but I do all of them as well as the things I've done that were absolutely special and helped create magic. Talking about making a possible WWE comeback, Matt Cardona told Wrestling Inc., "So, when I got released from WWE, ever since that day, my goal has not been, oh, what can I do to go back? What do I need to do to impress people to get back there? No, that's not my goal. But I'd be lying if I said I never wanted to wrestle at Madison Square Garden again, or I never wanted to have a WrestleMania moment again. Of course, I do. So, will Matt Cardona ever go home? I think eventually, but not as Zack Ryder, because Zack Ryder is dead." During a match against Slim J for AEW Dark, Action Andretti looked like he suffered an injury, with it noted by Jacob Cohen that the match has been called off. There is a medic in the ring checking on Action Andretti, maybe a concussion. Jay in Florida added, "His leg was twitching. I hope he's okay. Glad he was able to walk out assisted." Speaking of injuries, this was said about NXT star Cora Jade by the Wrestling Observer newsletter. The reason Cora Jade hasn't been around is that she suffered an undisclosed injury nearly 2 months back. With him having been off WWE programming due to a physical issue, Bray Wyatt was spotted by a fan who wrote, "Met Bray Wyatt at the crates randomly while I was driving home from work. Wild." With WWE Tough Enough winner Sara Lee passing away at the age of 30 in October, People.com said this in regards to the situation. The insider says Lee was heavily drinking the night she died and was later found dead by her husband, Corey James Weston, who goes by the ring name Weston Blake. Weston, had just come back from working in Orlando. He took the kids somewhere and came back and found her. It was sudden, the source adds. It wasn't intentional and it was accidental. Lee was never that person you would think would do this. According to the insider, there were never any signs. Giving an update on his health following surgery on his back, Kurt Angle revealed on his podcast, "I think it actually worked. I don't know yet, but I don't have the pain going down my legs, so the operation definitely worked. I'm hoping that the pain in my back will subside, and hopefully it will in the next few days, and then I'll feel really good about it. The doctor did a great job. He really did. I was having problems with my legs and the nerves going down my legs, and that's all gone, so I'm good with that." with CM Punk deleting an Instagram post where he talked about plans to return from injury and face Jon Moxley, who refused to lose to him. Brian Last posted AEW's Talent Playbook, where it says this about public comments. 19. Interviews and public comments. It is critically important that private, sensitive, and confidential information regarding any and all AEW matters be kept confidential. To that point, it is essential that we address and resolve matters privately in-house rather than through the media or on social media. Neither of those platforms offer opportunities for meaningful dialogue or resolutions. In keeping with the highest standards of professionalism and respect for AEW, our staff and talent roster, the following acts will be subject to immediate discipline by AEW, including fines, suspensions, or termination of your engagement. 1. Criticism of AEW, which includes, but is not limited to, the following: comments regarding the quality of AEW's management team, other members of the roster or ownership, including our TV partners, or decisions made by ownership or management. Publicly accusing ownership, management, or any member of the talent roster of acting with bias or in any way questioning the integrity. Posting negative or derogatory/demeaning content pertaining to AEW, its owners, its partners, or its sponsors, currently DraftKings, Price.com, and State Farm on social media. 2. Disclosure of confidential information. All conversations that are held back of house at AEW shows or scheduled events, in person or virtually, including talent meetings, are confidential and are not to be discussed publicly. 3. Directing abusive, profane, or threatening language towards AEW. Talent and employees must maintain proper respect for AEW at all times. Offenses against AEW include verbal or other non-physical abuse. This applies at all AEW event locations, including at the arena or event venue, airports, and other transportation modes to and from an AEW event, and at hotels or other accommodations provided in connection with AEW. 4. Public criticism of fellow team members. AEW policy prohibits public criticism of fellow team members. Such prohibited public statements may include, but are not limited to, accusations or criticism of fellow team members or the organization as a whole, accusations or criticism of tactics/style of wrestling of fellow team members, accusations or suggestions that certain issues consistently occur in a particular match. Innuendos and indirect statements will also be considered prohibited. While understanding that social media can be used to help advance storylines, first please check with those with whom you are working before posting. Feel free to run potential posts by Christopher Daniels, a coach or a member of legal/HR or PR team before posting. 5. Unauthorized media engagement. Interviews. Do not conduct any interviews, podcasts, or engage with the media without alerting and engaging the PR team. You will be breaking policy if you move forward with an unapproved interview. Anonymous sources. Instances of anonymous AEW talent being cited by media as sources of information will not be tolerated and is subject to discipline upon a first offense. These policies and accountability measures will protect you, your colleagues, and AEW. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to talent development or legal/HR to discuss. Staying on the topic of CM Punk, Sean Ross Sapp reported that as far as CM Punk's injury status, he tore his triceps at AEW All Out before the scrum. Those with knowledge of the situation said that he was hopeful he could be fully healthy by late January, but believed that now he'd be able to be cleared, and if not now, very soon. Reacting to CM Punk's now deleted Instagram story, Booker T said this on his Hall of Fame podcast. One thing about insider information and stuff like that, brother, it just goes to show me what this business is. Where you're talking about the business and giving all of the insider information to the fans that watch, they're the ones that are writing your check. That's the dumbest thing I could ever imagine in my life. Certain terms being used in that little soliloquy, it just amazes me how childish these guys really are. On the latest FTR podcast, Dax Harwood accused an AEW star of running stories to dirt sheet writers, as he said, whenever we started the podcast and Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez were saying, oh, everybody is pissed off at Dax, everybody is so mad at Dax. Do you know why they said that? Because I know for 100% fact who told them. And I know why they said that. Because one individual, and I'm sure there were people upset, I'm not saying that. I'm saying one individual, and I know this because the locker room told me one individual went into the locker room and openly said, "I can't believe he's talking about that. I can't believe he's saying that. I can't believe he's doing it." That same individual went to the dirt sheets, and I know it for a fact which of the dirt sheets, and said, "I can't believe he's saying that. Everybody is upset with him because they want that narrative out there," right? Guarantee that the person that I'm talking about is not the person or people you guys think that I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is make your own assumption. Come meet us at a convention or whatever and make your own assumption. Don't do it through a dirt sheet or whatever perceptions you want to get from a journalist, because I'm telling you right now that my complaining is coming from a place of passion because I want FTR to be the best they possibly be. But above FTR, I want professional wrestling to be the best it possibly can be. And now I get off my soapbox from that hope. I hope the fans either listen to it and appreciate what I said, or just fast forward through this. With the WWE investigation into Vince McMahon's alleged misconduct reaching over $20 million in cost, the chairman of the company has paid some of the expenses, as it was said in an SEC filing. On March 20th, 2023, WWE entered into a reimbursement agreement, the agreement with Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the company's executive chairman, director, and controlling stockholder. The agreement provides that Mr. McMahon will pay the company approximately $17.4 million to reimburse the company for the costs that have been incurred and paid by the company and or its subsidiaries through January 31st, 2023 in connection with and or arising from the investigation conducted by a special committee of the company's board of directors, related revisions to the company's financial statements, and other related matters. Such payment was made on March 23rd, 2023. The agreement further provides that Mr. McMahon will also review in good faith and reimburse the company for additional costs incurred by the company and or its subsidiaries subsequent to January 31st, 2023, or that have been incurred by the company and or its subsidiaries and not yet paid as of January 31st, 2023 in connection with and or arising from the same matters. The agreement also includes a release of Mr. McMahon by the company regarding the recovery of the costs described above and a release of the company by Mr. McMahon regarding the investigation and related matters described above. There's some big news surrounding the situation with CM Punk and AEW. Punk has now responded to allegations of him essentially forcing Tony Khan to make him world champion. If you don't know about these comments, I want to give some context first before we get into Punk setting the record straight. So Ryan J. Frederick of the Wrestling Observer posted on a Discord server. He said Hangman was going to beat Punk at Double or Nothing until the workers' rights promo. Punk got it changed, and Tony Khan literally sat on the porch of Punk's house in LA, booking out the summer with Hangman, not anywhere close to being in the mix because Punk wasn't going to work with him. No way they were going back to him at any point. Now, not long after this, Dave Meltzer would come out in the Wrestling Observer newsletter and do a bit of correction and say, as far as rumor corrections, the story going around that Punk was originally going to lose to Adam Page at last year's Double or Nothing, but pressured Tony Khan to change the finish is not true. Punk was always winning that match. I had said before the match that if it was me, I'd have Page win the first meeting and Punk then win the title in Chicago. But Khan wanted the title on Punk months earlier, and that wasn't Punk's doing or pressuring. Now, more recently, talking about Punk, this once again came from the Wrestling Observer. This is on Wrestling Observer Radio from Dave Meltzer. He was addressing a post that CM Punk had made. This is before he came out once again, where Meltzer had said, what it says is he wants back in, which we've already known. Other people have said that too, that he's looking to get back in. It's up to Tony Khan, and Tony's going to make a decision at some point. He's probably just about ready, if not ready already, from the torn triceps. So it is one of those things that he can do soon enough. That's something that's been rumored for a while, that Punk is nearly recovered. He's already had his surgery. He's sat out since September. He had a post months back that he was back in the gym. So it remains to be seen what's done with that. But he did come out recently. He went online and he posted this. It says, "Sigh, I wasn't clear to come back to wrestle yet. The plan was to wrestle at the pay-per-view. I sat and listened to Moxley's Rocky 3 idea. I explained how I'd never seen a Rocky movie, and I thought the idea sucked, but if the boss wanted to do it, whatever. He said he wouldn't lose to me. I'd never experienced someone refusing to lose to me. I just laughed. I asked Tony Khan if this was what he wanted. He he said yes. He's the boss, so I said okay, but I need to be cleared first. They kept saying it could just be a squash, so I didn't need to be cleared. I scoffed at that. My health is more important. Dave Meltzer is a liar. Chris Jericho is a liar and a stooge. There were plans, but plans always change, but I'll never put a company above my health ever again. Now, the first thing I want to go over is the shot at Chris Jericho there at the end, because at first I wasn't sure what this was about, but then I remembered there was a report towards the end of December where Dave Meltzer had said in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, several of the top guys, Chris Jericho being among them, told the rest of the locker room that they'd make sure CM Punk wasn't brought back. There's been a little bit of talk of Jericho politicking, and, go figure. That's going to happen, especially when you've got big names and new companies. More recently, in regards to Jericho and CM Punk, Chris had said on February 16th on Twitter, "I always loved working with CM Punk." And this was a response to a fan tweeting about their match at WrestleMania 28. I would imagine that there's probably more to that. Jericho and others in the locker room saying that they're never going to bring Punk back, but that seems kind of two-faced. Of course, it is speculation, but the Wrestling Observer is also seemingly pretty pro AEW. You would have to think that if they're reporting that about Jericho, it might be true. They get things wrong. Everyone can. We're all human. So that might be something that Punk is taking issue with, hearing Jericho go behind his back and saying, oh yeah, we're never going to bring Punk back, but on Twitter he's like, oh yeah, I love Punk, always loved working with him, and maybe to his face Jericho was being friendly with him and cordial and acting buddy-buddy. So that's where the shot at Jericho comes from. There's the context for that. And then Jericho would respond on social media. He put out on his Instagram story a little thing of Matt Hardy doing delete, which of course CM Punk deleted his Instagram story with the call out of Jericho. Now, let's go back to Punk's comments. The idea of him coming back to face Jon Moxley, that makes sense. Now, I can understand why he would be upset if he says, all right, I'm not cleared to come back. If you want me to lose to Moxley, that's fine. I just don't see why he's being a jerk about it, saying, oh, I won't lose to you, but if the boss wants me to lose, I'll lose, is what Punk is saying. But then he says, I'm not cleared, I'm not ready to go. But then Tony Khan presumably says, well, we'll just do a squash. We'll just come back and lose in a minute. And then Punk's not cool with that, which I think that's fairly understandable. I mean, he's not the champion at the time, so there's no need to rush him back and do a squash to get the title off of him. That would make sense. If he was champion and you thought, okay, we're not going to suspend you, we're going to do a squash, get the belt off you, then you can go home and we'll figure out what we're going to do after you get surgery, recover, and then we can come back and see where you fit into the main event scene or a program to lead back to that or whatever we're going to do. But he's not the champion. So I don't see why you would go through all the hoops to bring him back, build a program, just to have a squash match. I feel like fans would be pretty disappointed with that. Maybe some would like the idea of Punk getting beat quickly and essentially being shown the door from AEW. Okay, you get squashed, go sit out your contract or be bought out, whatever it's going to happen there. Now, personally, I don't know if I necessarily like the idea of Punk versus Moxley, but if they're going to do the match, let them try to build some kind of program here. They've got a history with the whole interim title thing when Punk first got injured and Mox was the interim champion, and then they unified the title. As Punk was saying, Moxley put it as a Rocky 3 idea. But what do you do after Punk loses? Is that the end of his run in AEW? Do you have him put over a younger up-and-comer, like have him do a feud with Darby Allin? Maybe Ricky Starks? If they're giving him Jon Moxley, to me, what that seems like is, so you had the interim title thing as we mentioned. Jon Moxley won the interim title when Punk first got injured with his foot, and then they came back, they did the unification match, and then Punk was injured once again, then we can have the brawl after All Out, and then he's suspended and stripped of the title. I think what Tony Khan is thinking is, okay, let's try to get another pay-per-view match, another build, some television ratings out of CM Punk while we still have him under contract. There's no sense in him just sitting out, wasting away, and us not making any money off of him. On top of that, we can get Jon Moxley his win back over Punk. There's history there for a storyline, so that's a good excuse to pitch to Punk to work with Moxley, because let's be honest, Moxley is probably not Punk's first choice. Not to say he wouldn't work with Moxley, but they've already had the match, and there's just better people for him to be in a program with and do something a little more meaningful with. But just from an outsider's perspective, I think that's what Tony Khan is thinking as the AEW president is, let's get something out of CM Punk while we still have him, bring him back. He's already faced Moxley, there's history there in that feud, so we'll pitch that to him. And Jon Moxley can then get his win back, get a credible win, and then maybe be a contender again, can go feud with X, Y, and Z, whoever may be. I have no idea what you do with Jon Moxley after a CM Punk feud or win. If they're offering Punk Moxley, this is another thing. If they're offering Punk Moxley, then they're not interested in Punk being in the world title scene. Because, like I said, Moxley and Punk have already faced off for the world title. And now they're doing the feud again, or that was the plan. Probably not going to do it now, but who knows, it could happen. But seeing as though the belt won't be on the line, or wouldn't have been on the line for this one, they don't want Punk back in the world title scene, fair enough. But if the excuse is you have history, then why not just do the MJF feud again? Why not have Punk come back and put a little spin there? Because the only hang-up I have throughout this whole ordeal, and with Punk's recent comments, it's not anything that he said or anything that's been done, but the suggestion that, oh, Punk, if you're injured, we'll just do a squash match. I don't understand that whatsoever. The only thing you gain from that, as we talked about with doing the Punk-Moxley feud for him to lose to Moxley, if you do a squash match, then ideally you have Punk for Dynamite to build up for television ratings to a pay-per-view event. You have a pay-per-view draw in Punk, but then you're going to have fans a little disappointed that they didn't get a CM Punk match. Not to mention, this is a rerun of a match that I don't think anyone's clamoring for. I don't think people would be necessarily mad about Punk versus Moxley. I just don't think anyone is enamored with the idea of those two going at it again, especially if the end result's going to be just a minute-long match. But as I stated, maybe some fans would be okay with that, given everything they know about Punk. Some may have even turned on him. Maybe he comes back to AEW and he comes back to a negative reception. Possibly the fans booing him. It all remains to be seen. It's definitely something that I think will pique the interest of not only the AEW fan base, but could bring some fans back to AEW. If it was me, what I would do is I would bring CM Punk back when he is healthy enough to wrestle a match, or as healthy as can be. If he can go in the ring, doesn't have to be anything too special, don't do anything out of the ordinary. I would have him come back and feud with the current AEW champion. Right now it's MJF. It could be someone else down the line, who knows when he'll be available. I would have him do a feud with the AEW champion, have him lose, because it seems pretty clear they're not going to put the belt on him again, and then depending on how long is left on his contract or what Punk wants to do, I would then have him go into a feud with an up-and-coming star like a Darby Allin or Ricky Starks, or whoever they want to build. Jon Moxley does not need the shine of a CM Punk win, but AEW could use the name of Punk, so put him back into the world title picture just one more time. He's not going to win, and then have him build up another young star. But tell me what you guys think about Punk denying these allegations, deleting that Instagram story, Jericho responding, and what do you think is next for Punk? I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. That's all I've got. I'll see y'all later.